Welcome, everyone, to In Other Worlds. I am your host, Jess, and today we have Alex Knight on, who is the author of Servant of Rage, which is his newest book, and then soon he's going to have another one coming out called Wriggly Little Hands, which will be later in May, I believe, 27th?
Yep, 27th.
Sounds nice. So Servant of Rage is the newest one that you currently have out. I hate asking people for tell me about your book, because it can be like a very, I'm sure everyone asks you that. If you had to describe it to a member of your family or a friend, how would you describe it?
So there's kind of two ways I go about it. It depends on how knowledgeable they are of tropes, because there's like the trope description, and then there's the fantasy reader pitch, right? So considering this audience is probably lit RPG readers, I think the best way to say it would be Dragon Ball Z-esque fight scenes, a Highlander magic system where if you kill someone, you take all of their power, and a Genghis Khan / Mongolian Empire inspired world. That's the lit RPG progression fantasy folks. That makes sense to them. If I'm talking to someone that's a bit more fantasy reader, I say three brothers rediscover the magic that once allowed their people to conquer the known world, and certainly experience no ill consequences by using this power as much as they can endlessly.
Not at all. So, it was very Mongolian inspired. What kind of drew you towards that as an inspiration?
Yeah, well, I wrote, this book's been a long time coming. I wrote the first draft of it back in about 2014. And at the time, there was a big push in fantasy to get fantasy worlds that were non-Eurocentric. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to get away from the typical, somewhere in Europe medieval fantasy setting. And I was absolutely fascinated with horse nomad culture and nomadic peoples that just didn't live in one place. So I researched way too heavily on my own time just for fun. And then when it came time to write the book, I was like, well, I know all this stuff now. I guess we put it into practice.
Yeah, it was so. I've noticed that a lot of books and movies and TV shows kind of at this point are very kind of easy to predict. At least for me, I'm usually really good at being like, oh, that person is going to do this. Or this is what's going on here. This book, however, I got about 2/3 of the way through the book, and I thought I knew what was going on, and I thought I knew what was going to happen. And every time I got that feeling, you were like, nope, gotcha. I was surprised every single time. I thought I knew what was going to happen.
I love to hear it.
And it was like,
that's the intent, either through planning or pure luck. Either way, I'll take it.
I can't wait for book 2, because it really just, by the time I got to the end, I was like, I did not see that coming. That was a shock to me, and it was like 2:00 in the morning. I just couldn't. I got to a certain point, and I couldn't stop reading it. And I was like, I had no clue what was going on and what was going to happen or what was coming. It was a shock.
As an author, I love to hear it, and I apologize, I guess, retroactively for hitting you with that epilogue at 2 a.m. at the end of all that.
It was good, though. It was good.
That's what I want to hear. Well, thank you. I appreciate your kind words. I'm glad you had fun with it. It's a book that's near and dear to my heart, especially because it's had such a long journey to get to publication. So nice to see it out there finally and folks enjoying it.
Yeah. So you did start it several years ago. I think it was the first draft that you wrote. Mm-hmm. And I think I had read online that you've written several versions or several drafts of this story. How do you think it's different from the first draft to where you finally were like, let's do this one?
So the first ever draft of it had similar themes and a similar arc, but I had a world in which there were multiple city-states, spread throughout the map. And the Mongolian-inspired steppe nomads were just one city-state. And I wrote the entire book, and they weren't that involved in it. And then I was just like, God, they're the most fascinating people in this whole book, though, and they don't even show up on the page. And I thought long and hard about it, and I was like, we're going to rewrite it all from their perspective. And that was kind of the first step into it growing into what it eventually became. So that was probably rewrite number 2. I think it's had about 2 more since then, which is not typically something I would do. This was the first book I ever wrote back in 2014, and it's had a very up and down, back and forth journey to publication with different avenues and whatnot. So a lot of, I think the last 2 rewrites really, or even updates, were purely just the fact of me approaching a book that I wrote at that point in time 8 years ago and being like, oh God, oh no, this is embarrassing. I have to fix all of this.
So you have had several books come out before this. I think it's the Nova Online series, and then you co-authored a couple of books as well.
With Luke Chimlenko, our Paragon series.
Yeah. How does it feel with the first book you ever wrote being released after several other books? Is it like a finally, or?
That's the initial one is, whoo, all right, it's out there, finally. Yeah, because Servant of Rage, once I had rewritten it to be with the more step nomad focus, I originally went trad pub with it and did get picked up by, at the time, the #2 literary agent in North America with the manuscript. And a couple months after he picked it up, he was driven out of the industry by a scandal that was very deserved on his part.
Oh.
So me and all of his other clients got dropped overnight. So that was rough. So that was the first hurdle that Servant of Rage went through. So that's just part of the okay, we've got it. Definitive edition. It exists. It's out there. People are reading it. Now we just get to finally finish this trilogy after all this time.
That's pretty. So it's going to be a trilogy. It's going to be 3 books.
Yes, we sold. I have 3 books planned. I know vaguely the end point, and almost all of book 2 is already planned. And we sold the audio rights to Podium for 3 books. So nice. we are locked in for 3 books.
Nice. So do you know? So you know where it's going to end. Do you have you're pretty much all planned out? What steps you wanted to take?
I think so. I had an outline that's a couple years old. And then in this most recent rewrite, I really upped everybody's power level a lot. So they do feats that were not previously possible at this time. So I need to go back through book 2. While the general plot is there, I have to really up, the epicness of it, because the power creep got to them in book 1. So they're
pretty epic in book 1.
Yeah, they were doing stuff in book 1 that wasn't supposed to happen until book 2, but I was like, I can't sit on it any longer.
Yeah, I have a habit of, when I'm reading a book that has a lot of combat in it, I'm not usually a very not as big of a combat fan.
Right.
And so usually I will get to a certain point in combat where I'm like, okay, this is enough. I'm just going to kind of skip to the end of the fighting. But I didn't have that issue with this one. It was good. Even the combat was very engaging.
Thank you. I'm really glad to hear that. I've written a lot of fight scenes, maybe not all of them published, but I've written a lot of them with books that I started out early in my career. So I put a lot of effort into getting them right. And I'm a firm believer that a fight scene, the actual fighting's not that important. I mean, it's got to be cool and dramatic and it's meaningful, but the outcome has to be about the characters. The fight should progress the character on their journey in some way. It's not just about beating, a boss. It's about what happens because you beat that boss or didn't beat the boss. And then also the first draft of this book was actually grimdark. It was very much like Joe Abercrombie-esque. So the fighting had a lot more weight and consequence to it. And, a wound that was picked up in, chapter 3 might be carried to, the end of the book.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no real errant blows in there. If an attack lands, it does damage, and that damage is accounted for all the way to the end.
Do you have spreadsheets and stuff that you have?
No, I didn't do that, but I did write down what sort of wounds they had, and then the rate at which they would heal. So I guess a spreadsheet just essentially, it was just a Word doc though.
Nice.
Little lower tech.
Yeah, it would. Can't imagine that it would be a lot to keep track of. Eventually, if you just kind of kept it all up in your head, it'd be tough.
And hopefully, we'll give them a little bit of time to heal for book 2, so I can be nice to the characters, but also be nice to myself and not have to remember every nick and bruise.
Yeah, I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but I'm very curious to see how the relationship between the 3 brothers, or who knows, between the brothers, the relationship between the brothers progresses through the books. That was, I wasn't expecting it.
I've seen a couple reviewers dock me a few points because of the direction it went. But and that's totally within their right, no hard feelings. But I'm like, just bear with me on it. Just come on, we're going on a journey here. We got 2 more books coming. It's got to have some ups and downs on the way.
Yeah, it can't be all happy. It's never all happy. Otherwise, there's no incentive to keep reading. It's just
yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, the book has grimdark roots. I've pulled it up a bit more hopeful, a bit more closer to a grittier epic fantasy than that. But those roots are still in there, so there's legit consequences throughout, mental and physical.
Yeah. Did you have anything when you first came up with this story? Was there anything that was an inspiration for the story, where you were watching something or reading something and you were like, you know what, this would make a really good story?
I mean, really, it's honestly the historical conquest of Genghis Khan and just how all of the circumstances of the correct method of warfare, the correct type of leader that believed in a meritocracy, all of that coming together allowed just this weird, unprecedented tide of Mongol empire to sweep across and create the largest land empire in history. Briefly, but for a time. I just thought that was super cool. So I wanted a world in which those factors were there, but let's amp it up a little, make it even crazier of just like it's a perfect moment of time. To quote, I guess, my own writing, if that's not too egotistical, that singular moment where lightning tastes dry grass and ignites a wildfire. Like just that 1 second of everything lined up perfect.
Yeah. I like when they get to Ba Seng, the main city, and they kind of, because they're such a nomadic, like plains group of people, that they describe the walls being as tall as the sky. In my head, I'm really picturing maybe 20 or 30-foot walls, which to now it would be like, oh, that's just a really big wall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's I had fun with that when they get to their first Zhong village or town maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Chobe. They get there and they're like overwhelmed by how many people there are, and they're like, and then the character that's seen this before is like, this is a town, man. You haven't even seen a city yet.
Yeah, like this is just a little town. It's just the difference between the two is just very stark. It's a huge difference.
There was a lot of history and study that went into it. I actually, I asked a question in r/historians because I wanted some real world answer on this. That remains unanswered to this day, so perhaps it just wasn't fascinating enough for them to comment on, or no one had the sources for it, but I'm going to say it was too good of a question. I wanted to know how much light pollution a city of this time period would put into the sky at night, because, obviously you don't have electric lights and whatnot.
Yeah, it'd be candles and
right.
like flame street lamps. It wouldn't be massive lights.
Exactly.
I can't imagine it would be a lot.
Yeah, I had to edit out the paragraph about it because I just couldn't get an answer on how much it would produce. So if anybody out there listening knows about historical civilizations and I don't know, relative light pollution in the roughly 1100s, I think, at me on social. Yeah, someone out there's got the answer.
Yeah, I like that you tried to keep it that accurate though.
Well, that one was a little bit of an accident. If I had described the light pollution and then editing, I was like, oh crap, wait. Would they? Would that be visible? It's a cool scene, but I don't know if it would actually be, visible on the horizon.
I think it probably would. For a city that size, I mean, they talk about it stretching past they couldn't see the end of it. That it was so large. I imagine that they probably would see at least some of the light, maybe a faint glow.
Right. That's what I'm hoping. I'm going to think that in my head because it's a lot cooler that way. And it's based on the historical population of Beijing at the time, which I believe had a different name, but my history's failing me, which was a very large population center at the time. So there's a lot of people in that city, especially considering the historical time period.
Yeah, I think that there would at least be a little bit. At least a little bit.
But hey, like I said, if anybody's got the answer out there, let me know. I'll take your theories.
Yeah, I would be curious to see too. So you started off as a ghostwriter for romance. How did you always want to do your own books? How did you get into ghostwriting? And how did ghostwriting for romance transfer over to lit RPG or progression fantasy and
Yeah, I mean, really, it was a stepping stone of just, I graduated college and I had an office job and I stayed there for about a year and a half. And then I was like, I gotta pursue my writing more. So I just quit and did freelance business writing. So I just wrote ad copy, product description copy, etc. for various companies. And that put me in a place to get contact with people who needed writing frequently, which just kind of naturally led to, hey, I got a friend that wants a novella written for this small publisher, but it's romance. And I was like, whatever, I'll take it. It's fiction. And just did that enough that it led to ghostwriting full romance novels, as well as a couple of health books, weirdly, which I'm not certain were actually based in medical fact. I questioned them on it, and they're like, no, it's all good. And I'm like, are you sure? I mean, I'm not a scientist. They're like, look, this is it. Just write it. I don't know if this ever got published. I almost kind of hope not, because I checked them as best I could, but man, I was like, I don't know, man. This sounds kind of fishy. But yeah, lots of weird ghostwriting things. Honestly, it worked out, though, because it transitioned to being an author, because that was the whole goal, was I wanted to do my own writing. And I just, honestly, I got really lucky. I was at my wife had an externship in London with The Economist. So we were over in London for 4 months living there. And there was a book club that I went to that was super cool. Shout out to the Super Relaxed Fantasy Club in London. Love you.
Super
Have not
relaxed.
been back. Super relaxed.
Super relaxed. Nice.
I don't know if they're still going. I have to keep up. It's been a while. I mean, this was 2017, and it's a bit hard to attend meetings from Texas these days.
Yeah.
But I went there, and afterwards, after one of the meetings, it was just we were all having drinks at a pub, and there was this guy that was there that I didn't know who was asking a lot of questions once he found out I was a ghostwriter, and I was just like, huh, okay, this guy's really interested, maybe like a potential client or something. And it turned out to be Michael R. Miller, who at the time was founding Portal Books along with Brooke and Taryn, and they were looking for a ghostwriter for their first book. So at that point, they thought they were going to use ghostwriters. So he kind of talked to me. We did like a writing tryout, and then they decided at the last minute, they're like, actually, we want to do real authors. We want faces on it. So would you be the face of this book we want you to write? So we kind of worked together to create our first book, which was Warden, first book in the Nova Online trilogy, which was my first ever lit RPG. I kind of, that just kicked it off, and been writing with them and self-pub ever since.
Nice. So I don't know a ton about ghostwriting.
Mm-hmm.
So you're basically writing under someone else's name. Like it gets published under someone else's name.
Exactly, yeah.
What is the benefit to being a ghostwriter?
At the time, for me, it was purely just I was getting paid to write fiction all day, which was close. I thought that might be enough. That was close enough to my dream of being an author that I could live with it. But after about a year and a half of that, I was ready to move on. I think I did it for probably 2.5 years total. But after about a year and a half, I was like, it's actually worse than not writing, because I'm writing fiction all day, but it's not my fiction, it's other people's ideas. And that ended up being more torturous than just not writing at all. So it was really good motivation to be like, no, I have to write my own stuff here. I really need this for creatively and also just, staying sane.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine that it doesn't allow you the opportunity to write in your own voice.
Exactly. Yeah. You have to mimic the client's voice.
That has to be really tough.
It's there's good money in it if it's something that you can do. But if you want to be an author, I think it's good as a stepping stone. If you want to be an author for yourself, essentially. But if you're fine sitting in the shadows and just writing other people's stuff, then hey, there's always a need for them out there.
So did you know anything about lit RPG before you started writing?
I didn't. I had never heard of it until Portal brought it up to me. Luckily, I had been an MMO gamer all of my life and was like the exact, demographic for lit RPG. So I was like, well, I've never heard of this, but it sounds incredible. Please tell me more. And then I deep dived and read a bunch of it.
Video games. It's just the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I feel like maybe when they were, and I don't remember, it's been too long, but when they were kind of interviewing me to be a ghostwriter, I feel like there might have been a question in there about like, do you play video games? Are you into MMOs? And I was probably like, yeah, it's kind of cool. I wonder why they're asking that.
So what MMO is your favorite?
I love Lord of the Rings Online.
I haven't played that one.
It's been out since 2007, so it's really old these days.
I didn't even.
It's great. It's super old. It's super clunky. It doesn't have modern resolutions. It's a little bit laggy. It's literally like, World of Warcraft when it first came out. It's on that scale of like laggy and whatnot. But it's a beautiful world and the storytelling is incredible. The most faithful recreation of Tolkien's world down to every detail. It's super cool. But I've played so many MMOs. World of Warcraft, obviously. I've played through New World twice. God, StarCraft's not really an MMO, but there's a lot of StarCraft elements in Nova Online, you'll notice, because I wanted to reference that.
I was a big EverQuest 2 player.
EQ2.
When that came out. I think it was like 2004, 2005 when EQ2 came out, and I spent so much time. Like, I joined a raiding guild.
Oh, let's go. That sounds incredible.
When the expansion came out, I took like a day or two off of work and just wouldn't sleep.
Yeah, that's it. See, those are the memories though, right? Like that's the good stuff.
Yeah, made real life friends with people in my guild. It was a lot of fun. I still talk to some of them to this day.
Right? I at risk of getting too nostalgic, I want those days back.
Yeah. Yeah, I like sleep too much now though.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I work too much. At the time I was working at a comic book store, and so it was part-time and I really didn't have to do much. So if I was really tired because I hadn't slept for 3 days, it was okay.
Sounds lovely though. Sounds great.
I thought about picking it back up. They, at one point, they completely changed the graphics for the characters at one point, but they let you choose between using the old graphics or the new graphics. And then they made so many changes to the servers over the years, which they do for every game, every MMO.
Mm-hmm.
Patch it and they'll change things and they'll change a bunch of stuff. And then several years ago, they released two servers that were like OG servers. So you could go back and play the game. They were set up like how the game was when it originally came out.
Right,
and at
right.
that point I was like, oh, do I want to? Do I want to go back and play it? I was like, no, I can't. I can't do it. I barely have enough time now to play my PlayStation or my Xbox.
It is painful, though. It's a painful reality.
Yeah.
Adulthood gets in the way, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Those were some fun times.
They were. I just remembered to shout out Star Wars Galaxies back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
I sunk so many hours into that game.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I played that one too.
Can we have those back? Can we just like spin them all up again with updated graphics and call it good? Because
yeah,
who needs to eat?
At some point, if I can find a way to replace my full-time work income, maybe I'll start streaming, and that'll be my excuse to get back into those.
There you go. Hey, there you go.
Request too.
Maybe you'll be like me, not the biggest fan of social media, but live streaming just works for some reason.
Yeah, maybe.
I was putting a push there on TikTok with a bunch of video content and stuff, and it was like I was so miserable filming videos every day and like trying to make them genuine and whatnot. So I literally got to a low point. I was just like, you know what? We're gonna try live streaming, and it was like, wow, I don't hate this. This is actually fun. People are here and interacting, and I can make content out of it. Amazing. It was a turning point for sure.
And so you live stream, is it Monday through Friday?
Yep.
7 to 9.
Yeah, every weekday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. We're on TikTok Live and YouTube Live. Monday to Thursdays are writing streams, basically. I do 5-minute writing sprints where I write my next book on stream, and then I encourage the audience to work on something else during that time. So we have folks in chat working on their own stories, doing visual art, whatnot. And then in between the sprints, we do like publishing, writing, author life Q&A, stuff like that. Just, helping new writers or talking industry shop talk. And then Fridays we take off and have a little fun, and we just make fantasy maps on incarnate.com. So I just go talk with chat, and we like create a shared world together and make a fantasy map for it.
That's fun. I was actually going to ask about the fantasy map streams that you do, because I was like, I wonder if they're of your world or if you're just creating just fun new fantasy world.
I've only done 2 of them so far. It was really just a wild idea because I love fantasy maps. I wasted way too much time making them. And chat just asked me about maps or something. And I don't know, I got talking about it, and they were really receptive to like just talking about fantasy maps. And I'm like, y'all, we can make one if you want. So we did it 2 weeks ago, and it was such a blast. And I'm like, okay, we're doing this every Friday. This is the thing.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It is. It's kind of wild. People have been saying Bob Ross vibes, which feels far too flattering.
That's a good vibe to have, though.
Look, I'll take it. I don't believe it, but I'll take it. That's what we're going for. That's what we're going for. It's been a fun adventure for sure. It's a lot being on as an introvert. It's a lot to be on for 2 hours every weekday morning before the sun's up. But hey, it's fun, and it's a lot better than grinding on social media doing, I don't know, trendy content or whatever for the rest of the time.
Yes. Yeah. As a fellow introvert, typically, like, after I do an interview, I'm just like, okay, I need to curl up in my blanket in my office and just play a video game for like an hour.
That's where I'm headed after this. Pokemon Yellow is calling my name.
Yeah, I have days where I'm just like, I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to do anything. And so having to try to come up with social media content, like, because, they say you're supposed to post like daily something every day. And I'm just like, this is literally the worst.
A piece of advice that I've got about that I think helps a lot is don't create content. Just document what you're doing. Like, maybe you can do like behind the scenes stuff of, making a podcast. Kind of document your journey, because you're at a rare moment here, kicking off a new podcast. It's exciting.
I know. And I've thought about it because I was a co-host on Chat and Stats.
Love those guys.
For a little bit. And it was just so much fun. It was great. And then I was like, you know what? I kind of want to branch out and do it on my own.
Yeah.
I love the boys. We're still going to collaborate and do stuff together. I'm still I'm a guest host still on theirs. So if one of them can't make it, there are times where I'll jump in and help co-host. And then I'm going to have them do some stuff with me on this one.
Nice.
But I was like, I just kind of want to go in a little bit of a different direction. And theirs is very much just lit RPG focused, but I also want to do like cozy fantasy and kind of branch out a little bit. So it's been...
Yeah, I see that SL Roland box back there. Speaking of cozy fantasy.
Yeah, I've got my my SL Roland, my Dungeon Crawler Carl. I've got my Golem Master, and then some of my video game stuff. This is not actually on screen. This right here is a print that I had Matt Dinneman sign. Before he was an author, he did art for like IKEA and Target. And I happened to find one on the Target's website. I bought it and I took it to him and I was like, hey, sign this for me.
What was his reaction to that?
He thought it was funny. He was like, I haven't seen one of these in a long time.
Right? I mean, blast from the past there. Good research digging that up.
That's, you know what? When you're doing podcasts, you got to do research.
So I want to ask you a little bit too, because like, you know, this is your second episode, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, hey, congrats. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for being on my second episode. Thank you for being one of my first.
Well, I'm happy to be here. But no, I guess you kind of got into it there, but I had come into this. I wanted to ask you, like, what's what inspired In Other Worlds? Like, what's driving the creation of this hot off the presses podcast?
Lit RPG is at this turning point right now. It is a very niche genre of book that not a lot of people know about, but the authors and the fans are all just so diehard, hardcore fans of the genre. Mm-hmm. Like even the authors will read other lit RPG books, and everyone is just so nice, and it's such a tight-knit community. And with authors really getting picked up and going more mainstream, I was like, this is the perfect time to get involved.
Yeah, sure.
As it starts to grow in popularity. And I've been very lucky in that I've been able to meet so many of the authors in the genre. It was just kind of by crazy happenstance that I met Matt first. And it was Dragon Con a couple years ago. I was introduced to his writing by a friend of mine that I went to school with, to grade school with. And he was like, you have to listen to this author, because he was coming down to Dragon Con. And I'm like, why are you coming to Dragon Con from Missouri? And he was like, I'm coming to see Matt Dinneman. And I was like, I don't know who that is. And this was 2 years ago, I think. And so it's like, I have no idea who that is. And he goes, oh my God, you have to listen to Dungeon Crawler Carl. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not an audiobook person, so I'll pick up the physical books and I'll read those. He goes, no, don't read them. You have to listen to them. And I was like, I don't like audiobooks. And he said, no, just trust me. You have to listen to Jeff Hayes. And so I was like, all right, fine. I'll pick up the first one. I'll listen to the first one. And so I did and was immediately hooked. And this was 3 months before Dragon Con. And I listened to, at the time, book 7 wasn't out yet. I don't think book 6 was out yet. So this was the first 5 books. In the 3 months before Dragon Con, I listened to all 5 books, picked up The Grinding, which is also by him, which is a horror book.
Right.
Well, these other books are intense.
Matt's a multi-talented man.
They're very graphic. He signed one and it just said sorry on it.
I love that.
It's graphic. So I joined his Discord because I wanted more information about like what panels he was going to be on at Dragon Con and stuff. And I also was a volunteer for Dragon Con. And so his assistant, Emily, we were all talking about Dragon Con on the Discord server. And I mentioned that I was a volunteer for Dragon Con. And she was like, ooh, if you're a volunteer, he has an event on Sunday that we could probably use some help with. And I was like, okay, well, let me make sure that I don't have anything scheduled for Sunday for a volunteer shift. And yeah, I'm more than happy to help. And so I ended up working at the Lit RPG Under the Sea event at the aquarium. And I was working Matt's table where he was selling all of his books. And so I was lucky enough to meet him then. And then we all went out to dinner one night before the convention. And I was hanging out at the Westin waiting, because that's where I always stay for DragonCon. I stay at the Westin, my friend and I. And so I was sitting at the bar waiting for her. And it's such a long story. I was sitting at the bar waiting for her. And then someone came over and sat down next to me and introduced themselves. And he was talking about this book that he was writing. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like, it's going to be your first book. Congratulations. Like, that's awesome. I'm really impressed. I'm a huge reader. And he was like, oh, are you an author too? And I was like, no. He goes, oh, well, this is, the Westin Bar is where all the authors hang out. And I was back there later that night, again, waiting for my friend. And he was there and he just started introducing me to everyone. And everyone was so nice. Like, Brian Norden was one of the first guys that I met, Matt, some other authors. And then it all just kind of snowballed from there. And then I met Richie and Joel, and I joined their Discord server, and I was very active on it. And so Richie was like, hey, do you want to maybe be a co-host with us? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, that'd be great. Like, I can come on and co-host when one of you guys can't be there. Mm-hmm. And then I just continued to meet more people and more people. And yeah, I just felt like this was the perfect time to roll my own podcast out.
I love it. Hey, I agree with you. I think there's some super interesting things happening with, Dungeon Crawler Carl's going mainstream as being very successful, very well received. And then we have, progression fantasy is inching ever closer to just fantasy with a hard magic system, which I think is going to lead to a wider adoption, seeing it more in bookshelves, more traditional audience getting exposed to it, just like DCC is going out there. And then we have a whole spin-off, like light novels, turning into the cozy fantasy thing. Like, speaking of S.L. Rowland, that whole genre is taken off. So I feel like it's a really good time. There's a lot of irons in the fire that look like lit RPGs about to really roll out to the mainstream.
Yeah.
Which, hey, and then fingers crossed.
Like Travis Baldree with his cozy fantasy.
Right.
But yeah, that whole long story was kind of for me to say, part of the reason why I wanted to do this podcast was because there are so many smaller authors that have one or two books out, they independently publish, and I just think the books are so good that I want to get them out there. Like, I want to introduce them to people, and I want people to hear more about these smaller authors that aren't trad published and aren't huge, like Matt Dinneman and Shirloon and Pirate Emma. There's just so many.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, and so if I can introduce people to all these great smaller independent authors, I will use a podcast to do that.
Well, I love it, and I know I speak on behalf of all of us smaller authors when we say we appreciate that. It's an uphill battle, and we're doing our best.
Yeah. So I'm happy to help.
You mentioned not liking audiobooks, but I should first of all, kind of there with you personally. Don't at me, but just not my medium. Love podcasts, but audiobooks, I don't know, doesn't work. Proofing my own audiobooks, which thankfully I haven't had to do, but sitting and listening to my own writing being read aloud is like the most excruciating experience for me.
Really?
And not because the narrators have done a bad job, I mean, we have Travis Baldree on the Paragon series. I have Tim Gerard Reynolds on Servant of Rage, who I still don't know how we pulled that, but mad shout to Portal Books for getting the narrator behind Red Rising to do Servant of Rage, which is just insane to me.
To listen to anything he's done.
He's one of those prolific, audio narrators, more in the fantasy sci-fi realm than anything that'd be progression fantasy. And then, I mean, I can't believe you mentioned Wriggly Little Hands earlier. That'll be coming out May 27th, but we got Jeff Hayes on that one.
Fantastic.
Yeah, he's not the primary, but Sound Booth was really excited about Wriggly Little Hands, which I guess I can give the pitch real quick for everybody that's not familiar.
Yeah, I was going to ask you to anyway, so.
It is, it's a comedy fantasy. I think it's in the realm of it's kind of like cozy fantasy, but it's all about goblins, right? So it's a bit more of a chaotic cozy fantasy. And the basic pitch is a bumbling family of goblins go on a quest to save the Dark Lord and accidentally do good at every turn. It's like a road trip comedy, goofy fantasy. And Sound Booth Theater has picked up the audio for it. And they were so excited about it that they brought in Dory Hayes is our primary narrator, but they brought in not Dory Hayes, I'm sorry. Dory Sachs is our primary narrator, and she does the main character and the prose, but then they have Jeff Hayes, Justin Thomas James, Christopher Raglan, Andrea Parsnow, and two others that I'm blanking on in under the lights, under the pressure, to do side characters. And I just, anyway, long story, I don't care for audiobooks, but I just got the proof of that one, and I am blown away by the job they've done. It's the only audiobook of mine that I've ever enjoyed listening to, and holy cow. Yeah, mad shout out to them. Oh my God, they did a great job with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I originally was never, I mean, before I found Lit RPG, never an audiobook fan. I was like, so many audiobook authors that do like trad published, just normal books. You can always tell, like, it's just very monotone.
Mm-hmm.
I just, for whatever reason, can't get behind the voices. I've never really been a big fan. And then Jeff Hayes was my first in Lit RPG. Just snowballed from there. And now I will listen to a good number of audiobooks, but I'm still really picky about the narrators that I'll listen to. I won't listen to everyone.
Yeah, it's important. It's important who the narrator is.
Yeah, it's a good few. The list keeps growing.
Sure. I think we're very lucky in this, I don't even know what to call it at this point, but the wider family of Lit RPG and books and genres that have expanded from that. I think we're very lucky to have really quality narrators. I don't know how that came about, but it's definitely, from my experience with other genres, the audiobooks are like you're saying. It's more of just one person reading the book. And I don't know, they're just inventive and creative in this realm, and the audiobooks are really benefiting from it.
Yeah, it's like a full production. Like it's audio. I would say it's more akin to audiobook acting.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Audiobook narrating.
That was, I mean, like coming back to Wriggly Little Hands with Sound Booth Theater. I didn't expect this. They put like sound effects on various characters through the entire time. So like whenever the Dark Lord speaks, it's like a bubbly lava, like magmatic sound with like an echo to it. And it just sounds like he's talking and his mouth is a furnace. It's incredible how they did that. And they committed to it for the entire book. And I'm like, holy cow, y'all. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just so above what I would expect from an audiobook.
Well, now I'm going to want to listen to the audiobook when it comes out.
I have a couple samples. Sound Booth has okayed me to give out exclusive samples as long as I run it by them. So, hey, maybe we can hook you up with a 60 to 90 second exclusive clip if you'd like it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to be picking it up. If it's got Sound Booth on it, there's a good chance that I'll end up getting it.
They're really love working with them. They're great.
So they're really good. Servant of Rage, what was your favorite scene in that book to write?
I'm going to say, I don't want to call it out too specifically because I will say it avoiding spoilers.
Okay.
Specifically, the scene that happens in Chobei when we meet the Blood Rage for the first time properly and see the results of that taking over Subei. That particular scene is very brutal. It was very hard to write, but I think it came together really well. And I think it's kind of a crap moment for the reader of like, things are worse than we thought they were by a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And the reaction of the brothers after that and how they felt was surprising.
It took a lot of work to get that right. I think I went through that multiple times to like get their reactions correct.
Yeah. It was also kind of endearing.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Favorite. Kashi is favorite one.
He's so heartwarming, so wholesome.
Yeah,
always got the sickest burns.
He's very wholesome. He's very like hopeful, and he just wants everyone to be great. He just wants everything to be good.
He has big little brother energy, I think.
Yeah.
It's been fun, particularly through the live stream, talking to readers as they read the book. Like they give me their updates each day in chat. Yeah. That's been a crazy experience, and I've got a little ranking going on of like favorite characters from people I've read. So I'll start. Who's your favorite character from the book if you had to pick one?
Definitely Kashi.
Okay.
Probably followed by Matma. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. I think she's my favorite of them all, and from the sample I've taken, Kashi's definitely up there for folks. A lot of Matma love. A small contingent of very passionate Bator fans, and strangely, I've not had really anybody say Subei, the main character, is their favorite one, which I think makes sense because a lot of is the more look, he's got plenty going on, but I think he allows the other characters to contrast and, kind of show off in a way. But I was surprised by that. We spend the most time in his head and everybody's like, nah, it's Matma, it's Kashi, it's Pator.
I feel like for a lot of books and TV shows and movies, it's usually the side characters.
It is.
That end up getting just a lot of the love because their roles in the story are so small that they have to be a lot more impactful.
Right.
And so the moments that they are in the story end up being a lot more strong.
And they get to just have more fun when they're there. Like the main character's got to wrestle with their internal conflict and the character arc and whatnot. And Kashi's just like, I'm here to have a good time and hope everybody makes it out alive.
Yeah, he's a good one. What has been, so when people are on the stream and they're talking about how far they are in the book, has anyone had any really just very surprising to you takes or favorite parts?
I have had, I'm not going to name any characters here because it'd be too spoilery, but I've had a couple people that have gone really hard behind a character that I wouldn't say was unexpected, but knowing what's coming for that character. And you'll probably know who I'm talking about. I've had people get really, really in, and they're like, oh, all aboard the hype train for spoiler, redacted. And I go, oh, yeah, they're great. I'm glad you're having fun with them. In my head, I'm like, oh, that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt later.
It did hurt. It did. It did hurt. I got to that part, and I was like, oh, man, why?
And what part are we talking about, readers? You'll never know until you read the book.
You'll have to read it and find out.
And then hopefully every chapter you'll be wondering if this is the time that comes. And then you're like, wait, was that it? That had to be it, right?
There's a handful of times where that could be it. It could be.
It's fun. Love seeing people's reactions. Honestly, it's the best part of writing it is just getting to see people's reactions and their predictions of where it's going to go as they read is just so much fun.
It's really hard to predict.
I'm glad to hear that because I'm not a subtle person and I'm not good at like complexity and stuff. So like somehow we got there. Woo!
Yeah, it was through me a lot. I had no clue what was going on and I was wrong every time. Has there been anyone who just absolutely hated a character that you were like, I thought everyone was going to like this person?
I don't know about hated, but I know that I have one reviewer who loved the book, but really didn't like that not all of the characters have positive change arcs. And so they were really struggling. Like they liked the book, but they were struggling with the fact that the character they were rooting for the most didn't change for the better over the course of the book. And I'm like, well, come on, we got 2 more books coming, so like, bear with me here. I get that because it's not the best feeling, but the story's not done yet. We got a little bit more to go.
Yeah, and if it's the character that I'm thinking of, I don't think that character is unredeemable.
I'm glad to hear that.
It's possible that they may end up being one of the main antagonists. I mean, the way that the book is left kind of makes you feel like they're going to be.
At this point, one of my dear friends who read the book early was so mad at me for that character arc and was like, this character is beyond redemption. I would never cheer for them again. And I was like, challenge accepted. That's what's going to happen now. Like now it's my personal goal to bring you around by the end of book 3. I think a good way to explain it is the characters all have different battles to go through, right? It's not just there's 3 brothers, there's 3 different ways of approaching this. And I think they're all going to have different battles going forward. And not all of them are exactly straightforward. Some of them are going to go through the darkest thing you could go through character development wise in order to, well, we hope rise above towards the end. We'll see. No promises. I can say I'll be working on book 2 this year, though. So I'm expecting, I think this is speculative pretty far out, but I think mid-26 we should probably have book 2 out there. So shouldn't be a long wait.
So are you going to be at any conventions this year?
Yeah, so debatable on Dragon Con. I really am behind the curve on it. I've never been to Dragon Con. I need to get out there, but I will be a panelist at Lit RPG Con in July up in Denver. So definitely there for that one. That's the only one I'll be at as an author. I will be at San Diego Comic-Con this year, but just as an attendee. So I guess if you're there, you could find me there. But Lit RPG Con's really the big one that I'll be at. And I don't know if the podcast will be out in time, but if you're in the greater Houston area on May 9th, we're doing a Beyond the Covers book fair for adults, we're calling it. Basically trying to recreate the Scholastic book fair vibes, but just with local artists and authors. So check that out. Beyond the Covers book fair, May 9th in downtown Houston if you're in the area. I will be there selling books in person. So that and Lit RPG Con in July.
Nice. Yeah, I remember the book fairs from school. Those were the best.
Right?
There were some that were like in the school library, but then there were always some that were in the big like van.
Right,
I
like
don't know
the
if your
rolling
school ever had
bookmobile.
those. Yeah, the bookmobile, yes. Those were my favorite days.
Right? Those are good days. I heard about this event in Houston and I was like, yeah, let's make this a thing.
Yeah, there's apparently I was on Facebook earlier today and I saw a post in a book group that I'm in, and two ladies have started a business in another city here, and it's a mobile bookstore.
Nice.
And it's in a big van. And I was like, I wanted to come to this city. I want to go to
Yeah.
that.
That's food truck, but for books. I
Yeah,
love it.
that's the best.
That could be the book caravan, man. I want that to roll up. Just go to all the events and festivals and stuff. That sounds good to
Yeah.
me.
So do you only play, I mean, I don't know if you still play MMOs because adult life, but do you also play regular non-MMO video games?
Yeah. I don't play as much as I used to these days, just work. But no, I love some Rocket League. I was very good at Rocket League with a friend. I think we were top 0.1% in the world at one point, which sounds incredible, but is still like a couple thousand player ranking from even being a semi-pro. So, like we were good for a while, but the meta is that game at the competitive level is dominated by like 16-year-olds. So at the time I was like 28 and it was like, "Oh, you're old and washed up, man. You're biologically your reflexes just aren't there anymore."
That hurts. That hurts.
Yeah, exactly. That was 4 years ago, and I'm just like, God, what am I now? Like just one foot in the grave?
That would make you what, like 30 now?
Yeah, 32 now. So, ugh.
You're still young. You're still young. You're still young.
I try not to think about it.
I got like 10 years on you.
Oh, I couldn't tell at all. I was gonna peg you at like 31. So, whatever
40,
you're doing, keep it up.
41 this year. This is 2020. Yeah, 41 this year.
It gets hard to keep track after time, right? And then you're kind of just like, I don't want to keep track actually.
Yeah, I don't even want to count anymore.
Just pick a date and stick with it. Like, yeah, that's whatever. I'm still 30. We'll go with
Yeah,
that.
I'll just be 30 forever.
Yeah, right.
That's what I'll tell everyone.
But no, I guess Rocket League, we play some of that. I just got, I don't know how much I can say it, but all of the Pokemon games on my phone through archival means and definitely nothing else. I am having the greatest time of my life being able to play through my classic like history with Pokemon. Like I've started on Yellow and I'm going through the games that I played as a kid one by one, and to have it on my phone and just be able to like, I got 5 minutes, boom, pull it up and do a couple things. That has consumed my entire weekend and I'm in love with it.
Yeah. I like that they have an emulator on the Switch, so I can play. What was that game? It's got Ness in it, and there's an alien, Earthbound. I can play Earthbound. That was such a fun game. I used to love playing that on the Super Nintendo.
That's super cool.
I recently got it's like a little handheld. It looks like a tiny little Game Boy, and it's called a Mii Mini. Like
I heard about this. Yeah.
I love that thing. I love that thing.
That's so cool. So do you just like load ROMs onto it? Is that how it works?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's
it's
the easiest
fantastic.
thing in the world.
Yeah, and it's clear, like those clear Game Boy colors.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice.
Why did we stop doing that? It's still cool.
I don't know. No,
Like,
they were great.
My phone's always in a case anyway, so give me the option to take the case off and like look at the circuitry and stuff.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I would buy a clear phone.
Clear phone. There we go. You heard it here first, folks. That's our company name.
I'm gonna trademark that. So
yeah, by the time this episode's out, y'all, the trademark's already been filed for. So don't even try to swoop in.
Don't even worry about it. It's done.
No, that's super cool though. I was thinking about getting one of those for playing all these classic Pokemon games because it looks awesome.
Yeah, they're really neat, and you can put more than just like Game Boy games on it. It's like original PlayStation and Nintendo and Super Nintendo and the Game Boy, GameCube. It's all of the, I guess, what would now be vintage consoles.
I mean, that was the dream back then, though, right? The number of days that I spent being like, God, I wish my PlayStation could come with me.
Yeah.
We're there, folks. The future is now.
Well, I mean, now we've got like the, I don't know what those handhelds are called, but you can put the controller on it and play your PlayStation games or your Xbox games.
Right. It like streams it to like a handheld controller type
Yeah.
deal. Yeah, I looked into it a while ago for like potentially a PS5 solution or something. That's pretty sick.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. I just like my consoles.
Yeah, I feel you. Like I said, I'm currently on this Game Boy Color nostalgia trip, so we'll work our way up through the generations.
Yeah.
I
Every
think
time I like going to a lot of estate sales, and so I'm always keeping an eye out for like retro consoles and stuff at garage sales and estate sales. I've got I have my Atari.
Nice.
I have my PS2, my PS3, my 360, and then my 2 new gen PlayStation and Xbox.
You got a good lineup there.
Yeah, and not all of them are hooked up because I don't have that many HDMI ports on my TV.
Yeah.
But I've got them all in my case, and I never have time to game. So
That is the great tragedy.
I have them, and I never get to play them. I did recently beat Dragon Age Veilguard, though.
Nice.
It was so good. I don't know if you're a Dragon Age fan.
I've never played Dragon Age, but Baldur's Gate was my first. Baldur's Gate 3 was my first experience into that sort of game, and I'm like, "Ooh, boy, I've been missing out."
Yeah. All of the Dragon Age series was fantastic, and this one just cut straight to my heart.
I love it. I love that storytelling. Right? It's like another way to consume a novel, basically, except you get to influence the choices.
Yeah, I will admit, I cried during Dragon Age Veilguard, and then I got very angry. I cried. Huh? Yeah, I was like, I don't know if I can ever play another Dragon Age game again.
Oh boy, wow.
For me.
Hey, shout out to the creators, to the devs.
You don't do that to don't do that to my favorite character.
They're cackling maniacally somewhere in the distance.
They probably are. They're like, that's what we wanted.
Now you're emotionally invested. Hey, I always tell, I get a lot of folks asking me writing advice on stream because it tends to attract a lot of new writers. And one of the things I always say is, if it's okay if your character's loved or hated, just don't make them boring. You need people to feel a certain kind of way about your characters in order to want to keep reading.
Yeah. Do you so you've got Wriggly Little Hands coming out, and then you are going to be working on book 2 in the Servant of Rage series.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything else that you are planning on starting or currently working on?
Yeah, I'm pretty booked up, really. I'm actively doing the 5th and final book in the Paragon series right now. So that's my current write, and book 4 is already done. It's just an audio recording. So that series should be wrapped up pretty soon here. Then I will be either Wriggly Little Hands sequel or Servant of Rage. Both of those are getting written. It's just a matter of what order.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be one first and the other one. Beyond that, I'm really just, I'll finish out the Servant of Rage trilogy, or Blood Rage trilogy, we call it. And then I got a couple books kicking around in the background that don't have end dates or publication, anything in mind, that I'm just writing for my own amusement. So we'll see how those shape out going down the road here. But the immediate next steps are finish Paragon 5, and then Wriggly Little Hands 2, or the sequel to Servant of Rage.
The cover for Wriggly Little Hands is great. It's fantastic.
Thank you. I'm so happy with the artist. Shout out to Ivan Shavrin. Dude rocked it.
Yeah, it's a fun looking cover.
It's a very, very goofy book, and he captured the energy perfectly of just... It's just... I like to describe it as a D&D campaign if everybody made intelligence their dump stat. Like, there might be one thought shared between all 7 of the main characters in there.
I'm currently in a D&D campaign where I'm playing a fighter. And I've never played a fighter before. I typically end up playing some kind of a caster, but we didn't have a fighter. So I was like, all right, well, I'll do it. And so I did make intelligence my dump stat. And I think it is incredibly low. Single digits.
Oh boy.
It's so hard to play a character that is just dumb. It's so hard because I want to jump in and I want to help solve puzzles and I want to be like, guys, maybe we should do this, or like, did you look at that over there? And I just can't. I can't do it. I have to just play dumb.
Right. I would self-describe myself as a specialist in playing dumb characters just for the fun of it. My favorite trick for doing that is like everybody's working on like solving the puzzle or whatnot. just I sit there and think about what's the stupidest thing my character could notice right now that doesn't solve the puzzle but suggests it as if it does. And it derails people, but in a good way almost, of just like they have to be like, no, that's really kind of you, but no, but you're not helping. Just chill for a minute. I don't know. Maybe that's why I wrote Wriggly Little Hands, because I just have way too much fun. One of my past characters was a barbarian. Who again, intelligence is a dump stat, and his name was Strong Rock Logbear, but he continuously got it confused. So depending on the day, I almost like rolled a die on my own end. It was just like, today he thinks he's Log Rock Strong Bear or Bear Rock Log Strong, and it was just all four names were interchangeable, and he just continuously had a different name every day based on kind of which one he remembered first.
That's fucking hilarious.
It's very fun. I love doing this.
That is so funny.
I think his greatest feat, too, was the DM erroneously gave us, in describing a scene, there was an old alchemist shop that had expired potions on a shelf, and Strong Rock just swiped the whole shelf into a backpack, just pushed all the potions into a backpack, and I think a couple sessions later I forced the dragon to swallow it, and made the DM go through and calculate the outcomes of 13 expired potions of all triggering at once inside the dragon. One of those was definitely a love potion as well, so we had a good time. The DM was like, I am so angry at you. 5-minute break. I need to calculate all of these effects. I will be back, you son of a bitch.
Sometimes those are the best stories, though. Like, that's the best stuff can happen when you completely derail your dungeon master. Like,
yeah,
it's so much fun.
I fully planned that Strong Rock was going to drink the potions at some point, and then I saw that dragon, and they were all like clanking around in a backpack, and I'm like, no, we're going to make the dragon eat these.
That is hilarious.
I'm sure the DM bent the rules a little bit to let it happen, but boy, it was good. It was worth it in the end.
Yeah, that is hilarious. So where can people find your books? And I'm going to have a link in the video description, or in the episode description, and in the blog post. I'm going to have a link to where people can pick up your books at. But if they don't want to check that, where can people find your books?
Yeah, so for the text link, I think I sent you the Amazon one. But the easy one to say aloud is, if you want to find all my books, just go to authoralexknight.com. And that's KNIGHT, authoralexknight.com. It's got all the books there. It's got links for all their formats. And there's some extra goodies on the website, too. I got behind-the-scenes art, playlists for each book, stuff like that. So if you dig deep enough, there's some Easter eggs and more than a few bad jokes hidden throughout the website.
I love a good bad joke.
Always. That's my goal. Fill good books with bad jokes.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go and look up the playlist for Servant of Rage.
Oh, I'm proud of that one.
And is there anything that you just kind of want your readers to know?
I mean, hey, just thank you for reading. Seriously, I appreciate it. Couldn't do this job without y'all. And thank you for buying books. Thanks for reading them. If you enjoy them, please just leave a little review on Amazon. Doesn't have to be long. Couple sentences. Those reviews are huge for smaller authors like me. Beyond that, just like I said, thanks for being a reader, and keep an eye out for Wriggly Little Hands coming May 27th. If you're into D&D campaigns run by idiots, that's the book for you.
Who isn't? And pick up Servant of Rage.
Yes, and Servant of Rage is already out. So
Servant of Rage is fantastic.
If you're into that grittier epic fantasy, you like Dragon Ball Z-esque fight scenes and horse nomads, hey, get after it.
All right. Well, thank you, Alex, for coming on to the show. Thank you, everyone, for listening in. And until next episode, keep leveling up.